move on. Welcome to the speech evaluation panel discussion. This will be moderated by co-founder of the AdWords Solutions and our District 120's Program Quality Director, Toastmaster Satish Menon. The list of eminent panelists include Toastmaster Arna Chugani. She is a chartered accountant, entrepreneur, and is currently working in the leadership advisory practice of a management consulting organization. She was the charter president of Chennai Speakers Forum, a district finalist in the ISC contest and first runner-up at the district evaluations contest. Next, we have distinguished Toastmaster Subhadeep Banik. He's a corporate trainer at Infosys Learning and Development, past division and area director in District 82, was the president of Infosys Toastmasters Club. Last but not the least, we have distinguished Toastmaster Sunil Jose representing the panel. He is an intellectual property lawyer for the last 20 years, specializing in trademark, copyright, patents, and business laws. 10 years as a Toastmaster, past president of Medley, immediate past chief judge of District 82. Please put your big hands in welcoming our moderator and the panelists for this discussion. I'll go on. I'll hide my video and on mute as well. Yeah. Over to you, Toastmaster Satish Menon.
Thank you, Toastmaster Aloysius. Welcome Arna, Shubhadeep and Sunil and all my fellow Toastmasters. After having listened to Aditya and P.K. Ramesh, there's a lot of insights that we have got in terms of how to prepare for the contest. Now let's hear from the people who have represented erstwhile District 82 and current District 120 on the district stage, and also from someone who's been part of the judging panel on what they think about how to do an effective evaluation. So my first question to you, Arna, is a candidate or contestant is there on the stage for speaking for 5 to 7 minutes. The contestant walks off and then all the test speaker walks off, not the contestant, and all the contestants have got 2 to 3 minutes to kind of write in their evaluations. What, according to you, should be some of the key areas which, as a contestant, I should be looking at when the test speaker is there on stage?
While the speaker is on stage?
Yeah, and delivering a speech, yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, Satish. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. And I think that's a very important question to ask. What do you do when the speaker is right in front of you? When does your evaluation actually begin? Does your evaluation begin when the test speaker starts the speech? Or does your evaluation begin once the test speaker completes the speech? And every evaluator would have a different way of approaching that. But as a contestant, what I used to do is, while the speaker is on stage, I don't turn on my evaluator hat. I simply turn on my note taker hat or my observer's hat. So I simply take down notes, not with the intent of starting to summarize my evaluation, or not with the intent of starting to say, hey, these are the points that I want to cover in my evaluation. While the speaker is on stage, the spotlight is on the speaker, very rightly so, and therefore my role is simply that of a note taker. The time I turn on my evaluator's cap is when the speaker actually finishes his or her speech. And that's when I look at my notes as a whole, and something that Aditya mentioned as well, and begin prioritizing the points that I want to touch upon in my evaluation. And that really is also the first minute after the speaker finishes the speech is also that time when you get the opportunity to ask yourself, what is the value that I have got from the speech as an audience? Because you can get the value of a speech once you've completed hearing the speech. So personally, I like to give the space to that speaker to complete his or her speech before I begin to evaluate in a sense.
Thank you, Arna. Your comments on that, Shubhadeep?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I think it's similar to what Arna said, that during the speech, I take down whatever I can, whatever I'm listening to, whatever I'm seeing of the speaker, whatever my thoughts are, and drawing a little bit from what Aditya said, right? It's my evaluation. I don't care about the rules, what it should be or what it should not be, but what I feel about it. So wherever I feel, I write down a quick note about, okay, this is the part of the speech where I felt so and so. This I do during the speech, and the 5 minutes I invest on prioritizing that what are the things I want to say and what are the things I don't want to say. Now, a quick thing which I do, and this is a very selfish way of doing it, once I know that which order I'm speaking in. So for example, let's say there are 8 contestants and I am the 8th contestant. So what I'll do is I'll take the full 5 minutes in prioritizing what are my points, what are my commendations, and what are my recommendations, learn it by heart. And then when I'm waiting in the area, I will think about articulating it in the right way. What are the good words I can use? What will be my introduction? What will be my conclusion, and all those things. If I consciously know that I am the first or the second evaluator, where I will not get that time, so I will divide my 5 minutes, maybe within 2 minutes, I'll try to prioritize. And the next 3 minutes, I'll think of what should be my introduction, what should be my conclusion, what are the words that tie up my points, so on and so forth. So that's how I invest my time.
Thank you, Shubhadeep. Now my question to Sunil is, as a judge, when you are sitting there and listening to all the contestants, you will get different perspectives for the same best speech which is done. What do you, in your experience, what makes for a good evaluation?
Thank you, Satish. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good question. I think this is one of the important question which every judge should ask themselves, because there is a high chance that you'll be get carried away by the text speech. So the purpose for which you are called there is not to look at the text speech and compare it with the evaluations. Your purpose is how the evaluator has analyzed the speech and how he has or he or she has given their analysis in 2 to 3 minutes. So this is one of the difficult area. Every judge is again same way like other speakers and other Toastmasters. So this is one of the most difficult area I think a judge has to face in an evaluation contest. The second thing I feel, maybe it's similar to the question you asked. I mean, it's related to the question you asked, is the chances of getting diluted. I mean, for example, there are, like Aditya said, there may be unique points, there may be unique analysis points, which all the evaluators can have the same unique point. Okay, this is something like, this is normal. The problem will be once the evaluators or the contestants started coming to the stage one by one, the judge, after 2-3 evaluations, the judge will be, oh, this I'm hearing it for the 3rd time, and you will actually that uniqueness getting diluted. I think this is a challenge for a judge. So in my opinion, you should not even, you can look at the test speaker, you hear it, but you have to look at each contestant separately. I mean, that's very difficult, separately, and see if he or she could analyze the speech and sum up the speech independently, not in comparison with the other speakers. And also whether the point was unique from his point of view or her point of view, not from other contestants' point of view. So these are the 2 important things I think a judge has to bear in mind when he's judging evaluation speech. Okay. You are on mute, Satish. You're on mute.
I was saying, just to stress on that same point again, how do you kind of take out some of the halo effect which comes into some of the speakers? Because unlike a humorous speech or a ISE speech, this every speaker has just 1 to 2 minutes to kind of come and give their evaluation. And I've seen that a lot of times this halo effect does come in a lot of times into an evaluation contest, not so much into ISE or humorous, because you have a much bigger window to judge the person. So what would be your advice to say that how do we kind of get over that halo effect in an evaluation speech?
Yeah, okay. Okay, this is again another thing which theoretically we can say a lot of comments and theoretically we can analyze, but at some point of thing, maybe after some time when you keep on evaluating, it's like the learning process in Toastmasters. We understand somewhere down because of the halo effect, another evaluator, another contestant lost a chance. You then only painfully learn that great message or fact that halo effects actually affected affected my judgment. I think this is something even I admit that even in some of the initial days of judging, I also had the same problem I also faced, because you have seen a couple of people and then they come, because they're coming to the stage is like Rajinikanth coming to a scene, like, so the moment they walk in, you are like excited. Okay, you're waiting to see that, he's just coming. So you will be carried away because that's normal. Maybe the evaluation may not be that much effective from the from the point of view of that speech or that contest, but he may be or she may be an ace speaker. So as an evaluator, he or she may be not that good. So a speaker need not be a good evaluator always, or at least in the contest. So your halo effect is regarding, can be in two ways. One, with regard to the speaker, I mean, us taking the contestant as a speaker. I mean, maybe in the club or international or other levels, he would have been or she would have been a very good speaker. So you are carried away by that contestant's evaluation contestant's halo effect. The second thing, as an evaluator itself, the contestant would have been the previous winner or something like that. It's very, very tough in both ways. I mean, I just added to the point which you asked. There are two ways like they have to be, they're halo effects. Halo effects are something I think the judges have to, we have to keep reminding the judges to be judges in the JTPs. And I think this is not something like tomorrow morning I say, okay, I'm going for a contest. No, today onwards, I will not being carried away by the halo. It is not possible. I think over a period of time, when you are going through this process and when you understand that some of the contestants were really good, but we were biased, I think you will learn that the bitter truths that always the people who are celebrities or who are very good previous contestants need not be a good evaluator. So in my opinion, you will get over this by over your experience, over your learning point. Learning process. That's all. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you, Sunil. My next question to you, Arna, is: now you get up there on stage, and you don't have that written sheet with you. What would be the key elements of giving a good evaluation so that you connect with the audience? Because the audience has already heard the speaker. They would have heard, maybe you are the 6th or 7th speaker and they would have heard so many before you on the same topic. What would be those key elements that will make you connect with the audience?
Thank you, Satish. Interesting question. I'm actually going to try and answer this slightly differently. I'm going to look at what is my purpose of an evaluation. What do I see as the purpose of an evaluation, right? I've been away from Toastmasters for a year or two, but what I really learned when my period away from Toastmasters was the importance of evaluation. Not very often do you get the opportunity to be a partner in somebody else's journey for a brief amount of time, right? In Toastmasters, as an evaluator, you're getting an opportunity to partner on somebody's speaking journey as a peer. And that's a very rare opportunity to find. And therefore, that's the intention with which I enter an evaluation. And if that's the intention with which I enter an evaluation, what I'm actually bringing forward to the table in conversation with the speaker may be common in terms of elements. For example, I may talk about the speech structure, and the other evaluators may also have spoken about the speech structure. But the reason that I'm talking about the speech structure with the speaker would be completely different, because I'm looking at it as a partnering journey. And therefore, what I'm bringing and why I'm telling that speaker that, hey, this is something that I think was great in your speech, because, for example, there was a speaker very recently who tried out the speech structure of parallel storytelling, 2 stories happening simultaneously, right? Now, that's something that I have struggled with for the longest time. And for example, if Subhadeep is that speaker, now when I'm partnering with Subhadeep on his journey, I understand what kind of difficulty it takes for a speaker to bring about parallel structuring in a speech. And therefore, when that point is brought about as an evaluator, the impact to both the audience, the speaker, as well as to you yourself as a triangle is more holistic, is more complete. And I think that's what, it's not a technique, but it's the foundation of an evaluation, for me. And I think that is what I would bring, not just for a contest, but for any speech evaluation that I would do, and kind of amplify it in a contest. Because for a target speaker, you're listening to 10 different voices about your speech and 10 different perspectives. While it's great, it's a great opportunity, but at the end of the day, as a speaker, what am I supposed to do? Right? How do I grow? Which perspective do I actually use to improve my speaking journey? And I think if you go with that intention of being a partner in the speaker's journey, then the value to the speaker is just a lot more amplified. And I hope that answers your question slightly differently, though, Satish.
Yes, Arna, I think that answers it, and it was very much detailed and a different perspective came about in that. Shubhadeep, my next question to you is, as a speaker who goes on stage on an evaluation contest, what are some of the things that I am not supposed to do?
Okay. Thank you so much, Satish, for that. I think this is something I have been telling to many of my mentees. One key thing you are never supposed to do is change the speech as a whole, right? I think that's something that is almost taken as a crime. Judges look at it as a crime. That what is that fine difference between I am elevating the speech and I'm changing the speech as a whole. Now, and I've been thinking about this, what Aditya said. I'll draw an analogy from what Aditya said. I need not be a master chef to comment on the food that you're serving me. But the fact also is I have to eat what the test speaker has served me. So if the test speaker is serving me French fries, I cannot go and evaluate saying you should not have served French fries, you should have served potato wedges. That is changing the speech as a whole, right? To be from a speech perspective, let's say if I feel that maybe I'll take Arna as the victim now because she used me, so I'll do that. So let's say Arna has used a story, and I felt the message that she drawn out of the story was not logically very in line with the story, just for example. So I cannot as an evaluator go ahead and say that, Arna, I love the message that you said, but I don't think the story fitted with the message. So you should change and give me some another story. This is changing the speech as a whole. What I can say as an evaluator is, Arna, I love the way you told the story and I love the way you gave this message. It was so inspiring. But somehow the logical connect between the story and the message was missing for me. So if you could have explained a little bit more about that logical connect, I would have been able to understand that message with a better connect. So something like this, I am adding on to that. I'm not saying change the story as a whole, but I'm saying, can you add that part so that it was a better connect for me? And one thing I have seen many people does is, I think audience did not connect. How do you know? You are an evaluator sitting in the first row. How do you know everybody in the back row whether they have connected or not? So speak for yourself that I felt I did not connect, or I felt this was great for me. So one is speak for yourself, don't speak for others. And second is don't change the speech as a whole. Try to elevate from what Arna said, right? That you partner with the person and see that how can I help the speaker. That's your first objective as an evaluator. All that things of giving recommendations, going beyond trying to give a unique recommendation, unique commendation is a part for you to win. I understand that, but your first objective is to help the speaker grow. So if you keep that in mind, I think it's all good. Satish, you're again on mute.
The question on top of this is, in some cases, you may not understand the speech very well. Okay? So how does one improvise on that when you go on stage?
I think that's a very tough question. So what I do is, and this is something I recommend that people who are into going into pathways now, please get hold of the CC manual somehow or the other.
Yeah.
That's the Bible to your evaluation. Trust me, any good evaluator who have been from the olden days of traditional path will tell you this, that the Bible for knowing what you want to evaluate of a speech is the CC manual. So please get hold of that manual. And that, if you can look at it deeply, like for example, simple, the structuring part, if I say, the CC3, how do you structure? CC4, what is the purpose of the speech? All these things, if you look at, you will find something or the other. Even a plain simple speech, you can say that, oh, I love the way you use the chronological structuring for your speech. And people will like, oh my God, he knows so much. Right now, another person will say that maybe another evaluator will come and say that I love the way how you narrated your life events. Whereas if you come and say that I love the way you use the chronological structure to narrate your life events, now that sets you apart, right? So if you can do that, if you can do a little bit of homework before going into that evaluation, most of us think that, oh, okay, I'll see whatever the test speaker says at that time. I will, go ahead and see what comes to my mind or not. I don't believe in that. Every kind of impromptu speech needs preparation. Even in table topics, everybody will agree to that. Same as for evaluation. If you can do your thorough homework, at least that has happened for me. I have never ever found this, that no matter how good or bad the speaker was, it has never happened that I have not been able to find a commendation or a recommendation, even for the best of the speech. But yes, don't force recommend something like what Aditya again was saying. Don't go and say that you are keeping your hands in your pocket. I think you should have kept it out and then talk about it for a minute and think that judges did not notice that you're force fitting. Judges are experienced people. They will notice those things. So I think that works.
Thank you. Thank you, Shubhadeep. My next question to you, Sunil, is whenever we do this judges training program, there's a lot of questions that come up from people saying the different types of techniques, right? So we have the technique which is the sympathetic, the sensitive, and the motivational. And some people come back and say, oh, how do we differentiate between the three? So as a judge, what would be your recommendation on how to kind of look into all these three, especially the technique in which the person has delivered the speech?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Satish. Basically, I doubt maybe the question, the evaluators of that anxiety, but I think from the judge's point of view, are they very, do they go to that's very specific point of seeing the technique of the kind of technique? I feel more than that, what is dominating will be the formats. I think when you look at, so from the judge's point of view, these kind of dissections don't happen basically. It's sympathetic, it's motivational. But one thing is there, it should be something very positive. As we say in Toastmasters, it cannot be rude or you cannot be something like you could say in the club, like you have to repeat the speech and all this kind of stuff. Instead of that, you should be very positive and you should be empathetic to the feelings of, I mean, there's a speech, even if the speech was a flop one, you have to be very subtle in conveying that. I think sympathy, there's a combination works here. Sympathy is not something like, I will be looking at more like an encouraging way of, encouraging technique, like, motivating the speaker to come back. I think this is one of the point in the ballot. If you look at the ballot on the other side of the ballot, it actually says you should encourage the evaluator should encourage the speaker. I mean, maybe this contest, it is not like he has to come back to the contest and do it. I mean, he should it's not let him to leave the Toastmasters to the speaker's last speech. It's not the last speech of the speaker. Okay, so that should be the way in which the evaluator has to arrange his speech. It should be positive, it should be encouraging, and obviously that will be in line with our Toastmasters mission and visions. More than that, I think in connecting with this, I also feel like many times judges will be carried away by this warning to the evaluator contestants, like carried away rude and offending statements, or making, if you're, it may be your friend, the test speaker, but you make some personal kind of comments on personal characteristics. Between you and as a test speaker, that's a different thing. But I think in one of the contests where I was chief judge, this question came like, there are personal aspirations were happened, and one of the judges raised that, and then we had to, we solved it. That's another thing. But try to stay away from this kind of rude and offending. So when I say rude and offending, then obviously it should be the other way around. You're positive, encouraging, and giving the recommendations. There are a lot of ways of giving recommendations, very polished way, in a way which as Aditya said, the speaker sometimes feels that, yeah, it encourages the speaker to come back to the same place. Okay, so I think it should be encouraging. That's what I said, positive and encouraging. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. My question to you, this question is to both Arna and Subhadeep, one after the other, is what is the level of language which I should use when giving an evaluation? Okay, I can see a lot of people sometimes go to a very high level of what I would say a Shashi Tharoor kind of an English, which may or may not connect with the audience. Or sometimes people stick on to a very basic level. So what are the techniques for you to kind of frame your 2 to 3 minute speech when you go there and stand on stage and give that evaluation? It will be to Arna first and then Subhadeep.
Yes. Thanks, Satish. So what is really language at the end of the day, right? Yes. Language is a vehicle. It's a vehicle to communicate what you want to the other person. And that's the purpose of vocabulary. That's the purpose of our grammar. And that's it is the purpose. So which means that two things. One, what you're saying should be simple to understand and well understood to the other person, which means your choices of words should come across clearly. That is the spirit of what you're trying to say. That is one. Two is really your style as a speaker, similar to your style as an evaluator, as Aditya was mentioning. What's your style as a speaker in general? If you are someone who generally and normally is comfortable with using language which is simple to understand, vocabulary which is simple to and basic to understand, or if you're someone by nature, if you're someone who uses vocabulary in such a way that it adds to the impact of your message in itself. But that's something which is your natural, your inherent style. And therefore, no matter which way you use it as an evaluator or a speaker on stage, because it's your inherent style, it comes across naturally. It doesn't come across as something which is force-fitted, or it doesn't come across like you're trying to make the vehicle, which is a motorcycle, into a lorry, or a lorry into a ship, right? It's your natural vehicle. That's your mode of communication. And I would say, let's stick to our natural style, and let's remember that the purpose is ultimately for both the speaker, the audience, the judges, and me myself to understand the spirit and the essence of what is it exactly that I'm trying to convey. And as long as that's served, then the vehicle serves its purpose very well. And that's just the way I would look at it.
Thank you, Arna. Your comments on that, Shubhadeep?
I think it's very simple what Arna said, but I just laughed because knowing Arna, I knew she will start with what is language. But I think it's definitely use your natural style. If you are someone who is very comfortable with ornamental words or something, we go ahead with it. But at the same time, remember one thing, that if your key points, if you're saying something which is not at all understandable by the audience or the speaker itself, it doesn't help. Your purpose of evaluating itself is gone. So there might be, as a contestant also, judges might be someone who doesn't understand that what is the meaning of the point that you're saying, and they will not give you marks for that. So there is no use using too much flowery words when it comes to that. But from my personal experience, what I have seen, like I said, if you can use some of the technical words that we generally relate in Toastmasters related to speech, not something not understandable by the audience, but simple technical words like square one technique, as I said, chronological structure, then you refer back, things like that. If you use a little bit of these kind of languages, which are already there in the CC manual, again, people who are not understanding, please get hold of the CC manual. Those words are there in those manuals. Those has become a part and parcel of our spoken language, those who have gone through that CC journey, right? So if you can use those words, it gives a sense of knowledge. Remember what Aditya was saying, that you should not feel feared, afraid to give an evaluation, right? You should have that confidence. So moment you give that kind of language, it showcases that you know, right? You know what you're talking about. And that plays a lot in the audiences and the judges' mind, what I have seen. They already that, oh my God, he knows what he's talking about, or she knows what she's talking about. That kind of a feeling comes. But again, know that limit where you will need to stop so that people understand what you're saying it. If you're good with that, I think that works.
Thank you, Shubhadeep. Now we are almost nearing the end of our time. And so one last question, I will want all the three of you to answer on this one after the other, starting with Arna. What would be your one piece of advice to budding Toastmasters who want to get on to the field of, to the evaluation stage? What should be like one piece of advice which you would give to them? Starting with you, Arna, first.
Okay, one piece of advice, right? Okay, when I started off evaluations in Chennai Toastmasters, I used to note down everything that the evaluators that I looked up to, everything that they did, all the structure of their evaluation, their choices of language, their transitions, etc. And I think the turning point for me was when I learned from them, but I found my own style. And I found my calling in it, right? So I think that's my only one piece of suggestion to every budding evaluator. Learn from people around you and use that learning to channel what's within you and what's your own style, instead of just exactly going by the way you're seeing things around you. Yeah.
Thank you, Arna. Shubhadeep?
I think for me, I love the way distinguished Toastmaster Vijay Lakshmi does her evaluation. She's very compassionate and gives that feeling, the emotions behind the evaluation, something which even I have been trying to. So one, be compassionate towards the speaker. And something which I have seen and which I give as a suggestion to new budding Toastmasters especially is that don't be afraid to evaluate, please. Don't think that, no, I am not good enough to take up an evaluator role. Start doing it right now. Start taking up evaluations role from your club speeches. Even if you're not getting evaluation roles, sit in the club meeting, evaluate all the speeches that you're going through and go back to your mentor and review those evaluations. Only with practice, you will know how to do a better evaluation over the period of time. So take up evaluation right away.
Thank you, Shubhadeep. And Sunil? your input?
Yeah, so for me, from the judging point of view, I feel very important point is like don't bring in artificial formats. See, I have noticed that in one of the evaluation contests where I was a judge, the speaker brought in something which was already available, the exact format which was already available in the in already given stuff, and we were all shocked because even some of the points which are evident and then which had to be added, was not even added. So that is something like the format is not the main thing. You have to say you have 15 marks, but this is not something you have to stress on. If you don't have you cannot naturally find out a format, please don't go for that. I mean, some kind of format. Second thing is a totally unrelated formats, like, for you are fixed, like the contest is coming up in Chennai. As Aditya said, we fixed on Chennai, and you don't find words to, you have picked a acronym format. Okay, now Chennai is a format, that, but you can't connect it, but somehow you find some points and put it to CHENNII. So that doesn't fit, and the judges easily understand that you had already brought in. It happened actually. You're already, but your marks is gone. Okay, actually, your evaluation. You just think about the next evaluation contest. So that's all. This is the one thing which I want to let. Can I add one more thing which I think I should say? That is summing up. Summation is having a 50. Many contestants I've seen that did not sum up the evaluation. I think this is one of the, even it's given us 15 marks in the ballot, but still contestants are not, sometimes they run out of the time and then they do, sum up 1, 2, 3. Sum up is something which has to be given due importance in your evaluation speech. So these are the two things I feel from my experience as a judge and chief judge. I mean, these are the two things I want to convey. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you very much, Arna, Subhadeep, and Sunil once again for sharing those valuable inputs. I think it would have been a great help to all the participants here in their journey of Toastmastering and contest. I'm very sure that these inputs would definitely help each one of us to better ourselves, not only when we go into the contest, but also in our speeches that we do in our clubs every week to make us better and better at what we do. Thank you very much for your valuable inputs and time. And back to you, Toastmaster Aloysius.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Satish and the panelists for your thoughtful queries as well as practical answers. I was part of an evaluation contest last year, so I can clearly relate to what you are mentioning there, right?